Imagine the largest animal you have ever seen in your life. An elephant. Now make it bigger. Give it a coat of thick brown fur. Give it tusks that curve 12 feet in the air. Give it a shoulder height of 14 feet. Now imagine 1,000 of them, moving across an open plain in a thundering herd that shakes the ground beneath your feet. That animal existed. For 5 million years it walked this earth. It survived ice ages that buried entire continents in snow. It survived volcanic eruptions that darkened the sky for years. It survived every predator that evolution could produce. And then one day, a small group of humans arrived at the edge of its range, and within 1,000 years, it was gone. Not sick, not outcompeted, not killed by climate. Gone. And the humans who killed it had absolutely no idea what they were doing. That is the story I want to tell you today. Not a story about monsters. A story about something far more frightening than monsters. A story about what happens when the most capable predator in the history of this planet meets a world that has never learned to be afraid of it. This is Ancoria, and this is where we begin. The woolly mammoth is the animal we know best, but the mammoth is just the beginning. At least 161 species of large mammals were driven to extinction in the last 50,000 years. Let me say that again. 161 species. Gone. Not just the mammoth. The giant ground sloth, the size of an elephant, gone. The short-faced bear, the largest bear that ever lived, standing 11 feet tall on its hind legs, capable of running at 40 miles per hour. Gone. The cave lion, 25% larger than any lion alive today, gone. The woolly rhinoceros, gone. The American horse, gone. The glyptodon, a species of armadillo the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, gone. The dire wolf, gone. The American mastodon, gone. The giant beaver, the size of a black bear, gone. All of them, one by one, continent by continent, in the largest wave of extinction since the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And here is what makes this story different from every other extinction event in the history of life on Earth. The loss of each species correlates more closely with the arrival of humans than with any changes in climate, with megafaunal extinctions following a distinctive landmass by landmass pattern that closely parallels the spread of humans into previously uninhabited regions of the world. Not one continent, every continent, in sequence, like a clock. Here is how the pattern works, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Humans arrive in Australia between 65 and 44,000 years ago. Within the next 10,000 years, 82% of megafauna had been wiped out. 82%. Humans arrive in North America approximately 13,000 years ago. Within about 1,000 years, most North American endemic megafauna were gone. 1,000 years. Think about that scale. The woolly mammoth had survived 5 million years of ice ages. It took humans 1,000 years to finish it. Humans arrive in Madagascar, an island isolated from the rest of Africa for 90 million years, with its own unique megafauna that had evolved in complete safety. Within 500 years or worse, the elephant birds were gone, the largest bird that ever lived on Earth, eggs the size of basketballs. Gone. Humans arrive in New Zealand, one of the last large landmasses on Earth to be settled, only 800 years ago. Within 200 years, every species of moa was extinct. 12 species of giant flightless birds, the largest standing 12 feet tall. Gone. In 200 years. The pattern is not a coincidence. The evidence really strongly suggests that people were the defining factor. But here's the part that changes everything about how you understand this story. The animals did not run, they did not fight, they did not flee, they did not behave the way prey behaves when it knows it is being hunted. They just stood there and let themselves be killed. And the reason is both simple and heartbreaking. They had never met us before. In Africa, where humans and megafauna evolved together over millions of years, the animals learned. Slowly, painfully, across thousands of generations, They learned that the upright two-legged creature with the pointed sticks was something to be afraid of. Run when you see it. Stay away from its camps. Do not let it get close. That knowledge was written into the DNA of African megafauna across millions of years of coexistence. But in Australia, in North America, in Madagascar, in New Zealand, the animals had never seen a human being before. The hypothesis follows that the migrating humans were responsible for the extinctions because the animals were not frightened of them, and so were easily hunted. Imagine walking up to a 12-foot-tall elephant bird that has never once in its evolutionary history needed to fear anything. And it just looks at you, curious, unafraid. And that is the last thing it ever does. Now I want to tell you something that the ancient humans who did this did not understand. Something that a researcher named Caitlin McGuire and her colleagues discovered and published in 2015. The fact is, you don't have to hunt down every living mammoth to cause an extinction. You just have to hunt slightly more than are being born each year. Slightly more. Not mass slaughter, not fields of bones. Just slightly more than the birth rate. And here is why that matters. Megafauna are slow reproducers. An elephant carries her calf for 22 months. She has one calf. That calf will not be ready to reproduce for another 15 years. A woolly mammoth likely had similar reproductive rates, which means if you kill even a small number of mammoths per year, more than the herd can replace, the population does not crash immediately. It declines, slowly, almost invisibly. 1 generation, the herd is slightly smaller. 2 generations, smaller still, 5 generations. The young hunters notice there are fewer mammoths than their grandparents described. 10 generations. The elders tell stories of when the herds were vast. 20 generations. Gone. And at no point, not one single generation, did any human being make a decision to wipe out the mammoth. They were just eating, feeding their children, doing what every living thing on this planet has always done. Surviving. And then there is the most haunting evidence of all. Published in 2024, scientists studying the ancient DNA of woolly mammoths found something that stopped them completely. Ancient humans mostly killed female woolly mammoths. Female. Not the large dominant males. Not the easiest targets. The females. And the reason is exactly what you might expect. Woolly mammoths traveled in sex-segregated herds. The female herds moved more predictably across the landscape. They stayed together. They were reluctant to run when humans approached, because they were protecting their young. So the hunters followed the female herds, not because they were cruel, because it was easier, because the females were predictable, because a herd with calves would not flee, and by killing the females, the reproducers, they were removing the future of the species with every hunt. 1 mammoth at a time. 1 meal at a time, across generations, without ever knowing what they were doing. Sadly, they probably didn't realize they were contributing to the thinning of their own resources over time. So what did the world look like before we changed it? This is the part nobody talks about. Because we have never seen the world as it was. None of us have. No human alive today has ever seen a fully intact megafauna ecosystem. But scientists have modeled it. And the picture is almost impossible to imagine. Across the plains of North America, herds of mammoths and mastodons numbering in the millions, giant ground sloths grazing in forests that no longer exist, short-faced bears patrolling territories the size of modern counties. American horses, the ancestors of every horse on Earth today, galloping across the Great Plains in herds that would have made the buffalo migrations look modest. Glyptodons, the armored Volkswagen Beetles, moving slowly through the South American grasslands like living tanks. This was not prehistory. This was North America 13,000 years ago, a world so full of large life that the ground shook with its movement. And within a few thousand years of human arrival, it was silent. And it did not stop there. Because the loss of megafauna does not just mean fewer large animals. It means the entire ecosystem begins to collapse in ways we are only now beginning to understand. Woolly mammoths were what scientists call a keystone species. They knocked down trees, they created grasslands, They trampled the snow in winter, allowing cold air to freeze the permafrost deeply, keeping it stable. Without the mammoths trampling the Siberian snow, the permafrost began to thaw. And locked in that permafrost, frozen for tens of thousands of years, is more carbon than currently exists in all the world's forests combined. We removed the mammoths. We are only now beginning to feel what that meant. I want you to sit with something for a moment. The ancient humans who hunted these animals to extinction were not evil. They were not reckless. They were not primitive. They were parents. They were hungry. They were doing what every parent who has ever lived has done, feeding their children, making sure the people they loved survived another winter, another year, another generation. They had no concept of a species, no understanding of population dynamics. No way of knowing that the mammoth herd was smaller this year than last year for a reason that had anything to do with them. They only knew that they were hungry, and that there was food. And that is the most terrifying part of this entire story. Not the scale of the destruction, but the innocence of it. The most devastating ecological event since the dinosaurs was not carried out by monsters, it was carried out by parents, trying to survive, just like us. And that is why I think this story matters more than almost any story I have told on this channel, because the lesson is not about ancient humans, it is about us, right now. Today, we are still doing it. We are still removing keystone species one by one, still hunting populations slightly faster than they can recover, still feeding our children without fully understanding the long-term cost of every meal. The ancient humans had an excuse. They did not know. We do not have that excuse anymore. We know exactly what happens when the most capable predator in the history of this planet moves into a new ecosystem without understanding what it is changing. We have the bones. We have the DNA. We have the climate data. We know. The only question that remains is whether knowing will be enough to make us different from the people who watched the last mammoth disappear over the horizon and simply went home for dinner. This is Ancoria. We will see you in the next one.